The CFL Gambling Podcast Week 17 reaction show episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up. And when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Yes, they do have CFL action. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and NFL with Rhythm. Get your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm.
This is Dan Hawkins. You're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
CFL Gambling Podcast. Week 17 reaction show. I love that introduction. It just gets me. I'm ready to headbutt my wall through this through the wall. Let's go. Let's get it going. You ever headbutt your you just deliberately headbutt a wall? Done that a bunch of times. No CTE here. All right. YouTube.com. Get on over there. Type in CFL Gambling Podcast. Hit that like and subscribe button. Look, big time week for old Dundee. Big time week. We're going to talk all about it. If you're wondering who the hell you're listening to, my name is Colby Swinging Database Dan, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
He's the kind of guy that would drink a gallon of gasoline so he could piss in your campfire. You could drop this guy off at the Arctic Circle wearing a pair of bikini underwear without his toothbrush, and tomorrow afternoon he's going to show up at your poolside with $1 million smile and a fistful of pesos.
Fistful of pesos is correct. The money line dogs were more than barking. They were biting for old Pick Dundee here. All right. We are also joined by my co-host. He is the host of the Old Fashioned Football Podcast. He is also the host of the UFL Gambling Podcast, and he's also Chad Kelly's biggest fan. Give it up for Justin Mark, a.k.a. No Turn J Mark. How are you, brother?
Doing good. Colby, I got to ask, have you ever had gasoline in your mouth?
I think so.
I was going to say, is that just a Midwest thing that you're getting some gas and then you have to spit it out because you've siphoned too much?
Now, I'd be honest. I think it's been about 20 years, but I do believe I've also huffed paint.
This explains a lot. You know? No, I'm doing good. My weekend was not as good as yours because I faded some teams I shouldn't have faded, apparently. But overall, it was a good weekend, and it was some good football. We had an explosion of points in a game that we both thought was going to be under, and that was fun to watch, though. It was good to see. I mean, we can get into it when we recap it, I suppose. But yeah, that was interesting to see him put up so many points.
Yeah, I ate shit on the total there. Shout out to Robert Martin in the chat. Once again, folks, get on over to YouTube. Hit that like and subscribe button. You can let us know what you think. You can let us know if you think I'm an idiot that's huffed too much paint. Just get on over there. And we are going to go through every single game and then give out our power rankings and talk about the playoff race, obviously heating up. But before I do that, I want to let you know that the CFL Gambling Podcast, look, right now in America, we just had a terrible, terrible storm come through the Appalachians. And I've known, I mean, if you've never been to Asheville, North Carolina, and some of these great places, Boone, North Carolina, all along the Appalachian Trail there, they're absolutely beautiful. And the last thing you probably expected, from my time going there was that a hurricane can actually do major damage to them. Cause traditionally it's the beach towns, but a hurricane did come through, unfortunately. And Hurricane Helene has been devastating to the people of Western North Carolina. So what we did is we reached out and we're teaming up with a local charity, mountainprojects.org, to help give back. There's been terrible stories out of this, and if you haven't seen the footage, Asheville, North Carolina is like underwater. You got a lot of the towns around there just dealing with there's bodies are stacking up, things just a complete devastation. So please, if we can, even if you only have a few dollars, jump on over to mountainprojects.org to help give back. The biggest donation will get a guest spot on our college football pick show on the Sports Gambling Podcast, and we're going to set you up with a ton of gear. Go to mountainprojects.org and hit that flood support help button. So if you could type in SGPN to let us know that it'll recommend where you can say, you're putting there's a title essentially where you could put SGPN, and if not, whatever, but that's how we'll know. And that's how you'll get on the show essentially, if you type in SGPN. But please, if you can, just help out. You'd be surprised. I just feel like right now they're too occupied to really ask for help. So we need to lend a helping hand to our brothers and sisters there. So do that, and please let it ride. All right. We are back on the CFL Gambling Podcast, and look, game one, we were spot on the handicap of it, just not the total. Like for the actual game.
Here you go saying we again. I was dumb and took Edmonton.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I thought that was obvious, but it was deer in a cage. The Blue Bombers,
I faded it.
The Blue Bombers destroy the Eskimos. That's right, because you had texted me. I forgot. What was this? This was like 35-0. I feel like at one point in this game.
I think that's when I texted you of, well, lost that one.
Robert Martin's in the chat talking about his Bombers. Look, you look at the stats here: 24 first downs to 17 for the Bombers, 535 yards for an offense that hadn't been cranking necessarily this season. That's got to be their biggest offensive output of the season, if I had to guess. The Eskimos only put up 377 yards of offense. They did outrush the Bombers, though, 154-99, but 436 passing yards for these Bombers. And they played turnover-free football. Meanwhile, the Eskimos turned the ball over 3 times. The over did hit. We were on the under, so we lost there. But I rode the money line here. I thought it was a pretty good payout. And I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the other game. But this was a good chalk play, -3.5. What am I talking about? I wrote the money line. Your thoughts on this game, and is this one that's just stating to the league that Montreal, they've had a nice little run, but the Bombers are back?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and credit to Edmonton. I mean, they were able to move the ball eventually. They had a terrible first half, but they still moved the ball. It was just too much to keep up with, and they just couldn't convert that to points. But rumor has it, now this is just whispers on the streets of Canada, that Zach Claros tuned into the CFL Gambling Podcast and heard us talk about how his arm's not what it used to be, and they bring in Dolagala and Brian Scott that could be guys competing for next year's starting spot. And he said, "What the fuck? I'm not done yet." And he went out and threw 6 touchdowns to kind of quiet the whispers. So shout out to Zach Claros for looking like the original Zach Claros, not the ghost of that we've seen a little bit throughout the season.
Yeah, and that gives them a 2-game lead, pretty much on 1.5, depending on how you look at it. But now you let's like a huge game for him. You're right. And shout out to him. Please, hopefully he's subscribed. And the other side of this coin, the Eskimos. Is this one that you say they're cooked? You think to make this playoff?
It'll be tough. I mean, Winnipeg did lock up the playoffs with this win, but yeah, it's going to be tough for Edmonton. They got Saskatchewan and BC ahead of them by 2 games. I don't know if they can claw their way out. I mean, they looked like a different franchise this year. I know that that's not going to make them happy. They wanted to make the playoffs, but they looked more competent. They just got to throw a couple more pieces together, and I feel like they can be competitors. But yeah, I think they're cooked.
And change the name back. But
that'll help.
That's just how it works. Yeah, I think they're probably cooked as well. But you did show some fight this year. Jarius Jackson probably going to get extended in the offseason, I would imagine. But nice win there for the Bombers. Moving along. This was my underdog play, my money line play that cashed and look, just when you thought we were out, they pull us back in. I mean, this is fascinating here.
Yeah.
Because these Ticats go into filthy dome there in British Columbia, and they beat the Lions 32-29. This game was a fun watch. It really, kind of equal on the yards point of view. This is about taking advantage of and not settling for field goals in a way, because when you look at the yardage, BC actually outgained Hamilton by about 19, 20 yards. And then BC was the better team on the ground. The Ticats actually had the 1 turnover in the game, but yet the Ticats walk away with the dub, because you got to capitalize on your opportunities, and that was the difference in the game there. Cashed, I forget what my money line play was. It was somewhere around plus 200 or something. I felt like
it closed at plus 285.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I thought I got like plus 220 maybe. And this is one that I did get correct on the over. I even said leading up to this is the best over on the board. Where are you at with this Hamilton team, and where are you at with this game?
Well, I think we can't discredit how much of a veteran Bo Levi is, because they were down 16-0 at half, and for a team that is struggling 16-0 at half, it's easy to be like, you know what, we're giving up. We fucked this one up, but they didn't. They rallied back. They had an 18-point fourth quarter. And that was when Bo Levi showed up in his overalls. I don't know if you saw the photo, but he had his overalls on. I thought, oh boy, this isn't going to end up well for him. He's being a little too flashy now. But yeah, credit to him for battling back. 315 yards, 2 touchdowns, and just the grit, the veteran presence of saying, like, guys, calm down. We're still in this. We can still win this game. But yeah, it makes this playoff race very interesting. They have 6 wins, obviously, so they're a game, 2 games back from Toronto. But you got to remember that there is a crossover here, so they could still make the playoffs, and our ticket is not dead yet.
Well, not only that, like, if they to make the playoffs, call me crazy, are they the most dangerous team in this, because they're just red hot down the stretch, number 1 offense, and Chris Jones got that defense moving along?
I won't say they're the top, but they're going to be a problem for people for sure.
And when you look at, yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute, but huge win there. Now on the flip side of this, BC, where you at with I think we were spot on with this. I'm paranoid about this. And if you had told me preseason that BC would be 7-8 by week 17, I would say they should probably move on from their coach. But where are you at with BC?
Yeah, I mean, I think Nathan Rourke needs to throw some touchdowns. I know he ran for 2. He needs to throw some touchdowns if they're going to be a competitor in the playoffs. And that passing game, since he's been there, I know there have been some flashes, but it just has been a little off. It's been a little off, and we talked about that when they brought him in. Vernon Adams was running very effectively. I know he got hurt. I get that, but he's healthy now, and it just threw the rhythm off of everything. And it seems like they haven't quite caught back up to that.
Yeah, and come on, man. We thought this year with the Grey Cup being in Vancouver, we thought, BC would at least be. I thought they'd have like be definitely having a winning record, but also just like by a decent amount. Where it's like you look at this, you're like, man, they look like this is a game you got to win, especially when you're up 16-0 at the half. You got to win that.
Well, and with how slow Winnipeg started this year, in Saskatchewan they started fast, but then fell off of a huge cliff. This was BC's. This was their division to take. I mean, they should have easily won this, and it's just gone to hell in a handbasket, as they say. Their defense, you've said it all year, it's pussy ball defense. They don't play good defense, and that's going to bite them in the ass.
Yeah, and it did on Friday night. Folks, before I get to the next game, I also want to let you know that yes, you are listening to the CFL Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. SGPN has the most DGen pregame shows in the world. All right, Saturday, the College Football Experience YouTube is live, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern, and don't forget for Sunday, the Propcast kicks off at 11 a.m. Sunday Eastern, followed by the Sports Gambling Podcast at noon Eastern. Last second bets, DGen parlays, your calls, and much, much more. Check it all out. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Pick'em has one of the biggest menus for all sports: NFL, college football, CFL, MLB, MMA, WNBA, NASCAR, and much, much more. Their lobby is jam-packed with profit boost. You can now use specials and boost on all flex entries as well. So what are you doing? Sign up. And when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. All right, we are back. And yeah, those were Friday's games. Saturday, this is the lone game I got wrong against the spread here, is the Redblacks head into Regina to take on the Rough Riders here, and they got beat down. Corey Mason, the Rough Riders, man, it's been a tale of two. It's been a tale of like 3 seasons for them. They started out hot, then they looked like shit for a while. Now they're getting hot again at the right time as they take down the Redblacks 29-16, force 3 turnovers, limit them to just 54 yards rushing. I mean, very strong performance. And are you back in on these Rough Riders?
They got a lot of work to do still, I feel like, but they're in a good position. This win puts them in a very good position. So I'm still waiting to see which team is going to show up each week, because like you said, it's been the tale of two sides here. Do you think Ottawa misses Reichwell Armstead?
Yeah, I don't understand why. What happened there?
I don't know.
Did he fuck Drew Brown's girlfriend or something? What's going on here?
Yeah, and hopefully, I mean, Drew Brown was injured. That's why I read that Jeremiah Masoli got this start. Hopefully he gets healthy, because I do think they're a much more potent offense with Drew Brown in there than Masoli. So, I mean, if he can't get healthy, Ottawa is cooked as well.
Yeah, it's a good point. Now you like the over in this game.
I did. I got way too cute this weekend, obviously.
No, look, no more. I feel like you sent me a photo last week of like a bunch of shit that came into your house. Like you went and picked up like a bunch of something. I forget what it was. Lumber. Was it lumber? I don't know.
It was foam insulation sheets.
Yeah, there we go. See, he's doing all this hard labor over there on his ranch, like he's fucking Costner in Yellowstone, right?
Love that show.
And then he's not focused. He doesn't have his mind. He didn't have his or the huge tits parlay got to him. You know what I mean? I think that's what he hit, that huge tits parlay last week, and he was motorboating that thing and stopped paying attention to the surrounding world around him.
Historically speaking, in this year, after every huge tits parlay that I've hit, I've had a bad week the next week.
Well,
nobody knows.
Whoa.
Well, I don't get they bring the head cold,
But they're counting down 765.
A lot of people say that at the strip club. They're like, well, after those huge tits were in my face, kind of had a horrible week the next day when I woke up and I had no money. Yeah, I have a lot of concerns about these Redblacks. and I can only think of our guy Rod Villagomez and say, buddy, it's still been a surprising season, even if they don't make the playoffs. It's still been a surprising season, but he wants that championship. He wants that Grey Cup. I don't think it's going to happen, buddy. Moving forward, last game on the slate, boy. Look, the cows have come home to roost, J Mark. The
cows roost.
Yeah, it's a classic. It's a classic line from Naked Gun. The Toronto Argonauts 37, the Alouettes 31, and boy, am I concerned about these Alouettes, because when you give up 527 yards of offense, including 293 to the legendary Chad Kelly, buddy.
Oh boy.
Actually, the bigger stat there was the fact that they rushed for 234 against the Alouettes. Yeah. That's what makes them. This is why, back to our power rankings episode a week ago, I couldn't put them that far back because I was like, they have the capability, in my opinion. They're one of the only teams in this league that I think can beat every single team in the league. Like, I don't feel like, if you told me, oh, Saskatchewan could beat, I'm like, no. Edmonton, no. Ottawa, no. There's only one team like that is not among the top that I think is capable of beating every single team in this league, and that's the Argonauts. Mainly because of that 234 yards on the ground. They have coming into the year, I thought they had the best offensive line, and maybe they still do. Your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so I ranked them very low in the power rankings last week, and it was because I said they don't run the ball. They're throwing it too much with Chad Kelly. So they come out and they run the ball 30 times, pass the ball 30 times. That is the recipe for their success. If they can run the ball.
So Dinwiddie subscribed to our podcast too.
He listened as well. I mean, we're giving out coaching tips. We're motivating quarterbacks, huge tits parlays every other week, fire DFS. I mean, what's not to like about this show? Come on. Yeah, Chad Kelly, fuck Chad Kelly. I mean, he threw his 236 yards and his interception, no touchdowns. Didn't matter because they ran the damn ball and they ran it well. And that's what we kept saying. Like, okay, you have Chad Kelly back. That's great, but you've been running the ball so well. Why are you not sticking to that? And they finally did. And this is the result you get. All the turnovers on Montreal, that was unfortunate as well. But this came down to they pushed him around by running the ball, and that's how Toronto can get back to the Grey Cup.
Yes, exactly. And now I will say I was on the under, but I did hit on the money lines of Toronto and Hamilton, and 2-2 on the totals, but 3-1 ATS. Felt pretty damn good about this. And yeah, like the Argos are a team that they're capable of beating everybody. So it's going to be fascinating to watch down the stretch. They can also lose to Hamilton for a fourth time and perhaps miss the playoffs. So you figure it out. All right. Well, look, those are the 4 games. Which one was the biggest surprise to you? Was it Hamilton or was it Toronto?
It was Toronto to me, just because I thought Montreal was just such a powerhouse team. Yeah, they've clinched their division. They've clinched the playoffs. Maybe that has something to do with it, but I don't think they had when they were playing. I don't know if they had clinched yet. Well, yeah, they must have because they were the last game. But that did surprise me the most. The fact that Toronto committed to the run, stuck to it. I didn't think they were going to, and got the job done. That's what they need to do to win.
Yeah, and so the standings, I'm looking right now. And this is what I find very very fascinating here. First off, this upcoming week, only 3 games, flag on the play, but you have a situation. So Winnipeg is 9-6, first place in the West. Second place is Saskatchewan, 7-7-1. Third place BC at 7-8. That it seems like we got a little bit of clarity on that West Division race. Technically, the Eskimos, I think, still mathematically alive at 5-10, but they just need a lot of help. And is Calgary officially eliminated yet? I feel like they have to be right on the cusp of that.
So we got 4 weeks left. So I think technically they could still make the playoffs, but it would take a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and call them eliminated.
Well, they do get Saskatchewan the final week of the season, and they get the Eskimos next week, and then they're at Hamilton week 20. They would need BC to continue to lose as well. And BC is.
And they play them next week.
That's true. This upcoming week. Yeah. Well, I guess, yeah, then they're definitely still alive. But I kind of think they're done too.
Yeah.
The East Division, we have Montreal, who's clinched, but this is where it's fun here. Ottawa, Toronto, Hamilton, all within striking distance here down the stretch. Ottawa at 8-6-1 in second place. Toronto at 8-7 in third place, and Hamilton at 6-9 in fourth. As you alluded to earlier, Hamilton gets. I know they play Toronto on the schedule this week. They're hosting Winnipeg. But Winnipeg just clinched. That might actually be like a blessing in disguise. And then next week they get who do they get next week? Are they on bye next week? I think they're on bye next week. Then they're hosting Calgary, and then heading to Ottawa. Wait, I thought they got Toronto one more time. Am I mistaken?
I'm looking here. I don't think they do.
Okay. So they have a tiebreaker on Toronto. They play Ottawa. So, and then this week Toronto's on bye, but Toronto's got to head to Winnipeg the following week. And then host Ottawa. I have no idea. It's going to be very interesting down the stretch. And then Toronto ends the season with the Eskimos on the road there in Edmonton. Odds Hamilton makes the playoffs.
Whew, not very good. So 6 teams make the playoffs, right? Out of 9.
Yeah.
And the crossover, is it that the West can cross into the East, or is it either way? Do you remember off the top of your head?
I thought it was the West could cross over into the East.
Okay, because they have more teams. So I think that's how it is too, because they have 5, East has 4. So if the third place, or I guess the fourth place in that matter, if the fourth place team in the West has a better record than the third place in the East, that team makes it, right?
Yes, but I don't think that's going to happen because Edmonton's 5-10.
True, unless Toronto keeps losing or Ottawa keeps losing. I agree. It likely won't happen. And because of that, I just don't think Hamilton has much chance. 2 games back. They do have the tiebreaker over Toronto. I just think that those 2 games are in the way. I don't know if Toronto would have to lose out, right? And Hamilton would have to win out.
Not necessarily, right? Toronto could win 1, right? So what this week, if maybe I'm full of shit right now. Let me just.
Toronto doesn't play this week.
Oh, okay. So wait. So next week. So if Hamilton beats the Bombers, so let's say Hamilton's 7-9.
Yep, 1
next
game
week.
back.
Ottawa doesn't play this week either, so they're just sitting there.
Right.
And then the next week, Toronto is at Winnipeg, which you would think that would be a very losable game, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that would be, let's just say 8-8. Hamilton is once again at 7-9, 1 game back. Ottawa's at Montreal. You would think that Ottawa, especially if Drew Brown's not there, they're probably going to lose that game. So they'd be 8-7-1, but that tie might save them. So you're talking about a game back or a game and a half back going into week 20, right? Now, of course, well, and then Hamilton's doesn't play that week. They're on bye week 19. So on the 20th, the week 20, Hamilton is hosting Calgary, which I would favor them, right?
Right.
They would be then 8-9.
And Ottawa and Toronto play each other, I guess. That helps them.
I think we need Ottawa to win that game for our ticket. And then I do believe what would it, the 8-9, and then it'd be 8-8, right?
And then they play Ottawa the last week.
Yeah. So I mean,
so looking at it that way, make the playoffs. What do you think? 4-1? Is that too generous?
might be a little too generous.
I don't know. The way Ottawa's been playing.
That's true. That's true. And then Toronto, yeah, I don't know. That's going to be a fascinating stretch, though.
Yeah.
Over the next couple of weeks. And folks, in case you're wondering, for this week ahead of us right now, Friday night we get Winnipeg at Hamilton, which obviously I'll have my eyes glued to that one, and then Calgary at BC, which I actually think both. If Calgary's got any chance, they got to win that game. That's a playoff game essentially. And then on Saturday, which I will be in Tempe, Arizona for college football, but Saskatchewan and is heading to the Eskimos. I don't mind missing that game, but the three games this week, not a lot of meat on the bone, besides Friday night. So, and I guess Saskatchewan can't afford a loss there to the Eskimos because that would put the Eskimos right back in the mix. So even that would be intriguing. What's your opinion on 3 games this late into the season?
I don't like it.
I don't either.
I don't like it at all. I get that you have to work bye weeks in, but they need a new schedule planner.
Yeah, do that shit early in the year. With this point, you're super excited. You're like, damn, the playoff race is heating up. You're like, man, what are we doing here? What are you doing here? Anyway, let's get to our power rankings. But before we get to our power rankings, I want to let you know the CFL Gambling Podcast is brought to you by Rhythm. SGPN's proud partner. Rhythm is the #1 AI powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds to get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, props, all that good stuff. And look, you could just sit back and copy one of the top performing leaders or models from the leaderboard. Or you could build your own model, select what you like, and then Rhythm will build around that. Rhythm gives you predictions for every game and player prop and has a slew of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insight. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. We're also brought to you by BetUS. Bet with the best in the business. BetUS. BetUS has been around for more than 30 years, and you can easily deposit using cryptocurrency and get lightning fast payouts. I am jumping on was it Texas State this Thursday against the Troy Trojans. I'm also taking Sam Houston, a little parlay for Thursday night. Use our link to sign up and get 125% deposit bonus on your first 3 deposits. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betus. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betus. Promo code SGPN so they know that we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sports book. All right, we are back talking CFL action and power rankings. Team 9. Well, I feel like we're gonna agree because they didn't play. Calgary Stampeders.
Yeah, I don't know how you can put them above anybody else at this point.
Yeah. And that team 8, I got the Edmonton Eskimos.
Seeing eye to eye. They had a nice run, but it looked like they were gonna ruffle some feathers, poke the bear a little bit, but it's kind of fallen off now. The magic has worn off. So yeah, I have them at 8 as well.
Wow, agreeing already. At 7, it's where it gets a little dicey. I got the Ottawa Redblacks at 7.
Once my #1 power ranked team, Ottawa Redblacks. Number 7, I agree. They just haven't looked all that impressive. And like I said earlier, if Drew Brown can't get healthy, they are cooked. The defense has been pretty solid all year, but it's been Drew Brown that's been able to put up the big scores for them. So if he's not healthy, they're cooked, and they're just not playing great right now.
Yeah, I agree. So we nailed all 3. All right, at number 6, I got the BC Lions. I can't trust them right now. Can't trust them. I wonder about that. The pulse of the locker room. They play defense like a bunch of pussies. And BC at 6. Who do you got at 6?
Also, real quick, Robert wanting to know if you got a Budweiser or a tonic there. What you sipping on?
Oh, yeah. I wish it was a Budweiser. Well, it's a little early in the morning, but no, this is like a soda water. It's the mango soda water.
Yeah, I'm while we're on the topic, drinking my the unofficial sponsor of Old Fashioned Football. You know, you got to hydrate with your whiskey, Liquid Death.
Yeah, you got you got to. It's important.
Yeah.
Um,
For 6, I was back and forth between BC, the team you picked, and then the team that I eventually settled on, and that's the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I think both these teams are the same, where they've had some really good moments this year. They've had some really shit moments, and it's hard to know which team you're getting any given week. They're really a coin toss to me, but I ended up putting Saskatchewan there.
That's my number 5 team.
Okay.
And the reason why I have them above BC is I trust their defense a little bit more.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I have BC above just because I trust their offense just a little bit more. So,
Fair.
but yeah, I really think both those teams are probably a 5A, 5B. Not even 5. Let's put them 6A, 6B. No 5 team.
well, at 4 then, I got my Hamilton Ticats, but man, number 1 offense in the league and a defense that's improving with every given week. My ticket, our ticket to win the Grey Cup, still very much alive. Who do you have it for?
You know, I really wanted to put Toronto here because it's hard putting Hamilton below them when Hamilton has owned them.
Yeah, it's good.
But if you run the ball 30 times with Kadeem Carey and Deonta McMahon and company, you're going to have success. So I couldn't do it. I have Hamilton as well at number 4. Inspired play by them from a team that probably didn't have a lot of hopes to outside lookers. I'm sure they had hopes to outside views, and then to make some coaching changes and get that defense back on point. It's really impressive. I'm excited to see what they can do.
Yeah, they've been a great storyline. I feel like past few weeks. At number 3, I do have the Toronto Argonauts, despite them being swept by 0-3 against Hamilton. I understand if I get a 1-star and say, Dundee, you're a fucking idiot. All right. But I just feel like if they're not playing each other, I think I've already made the case on this episode where I say like they are capable of beating anybody because I do believe they have the best offensive line. They also didn't have one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever hit planet Earth, Chad Kelly, for a long time. All right.
Fuck Chad Kelly.
But no, I mean they didn't have him for a long time. You can't. I mean the offense is a little. He's a better passer than what they had.
Yeah.
So the offense opens up a little bit, and with each week they get a little more familiar. And I think that's the difference there. Is putting Toronto at 3. Who do you got at 3?
Yeah, 236 yards and an interception. Just remember that. I mean, I know if it was the Jets quarterback, it'd be really good, but come on now. I also have Toronto, Toronto's at 3. Just because they're running the ball so well. If they keep doing that, then they're going to win, because Chad Kelly is a quarterback that when you run efficiently, he is going to win games.
Yeah. And look, the irony there is that they've beaten Montreal, I think 2 times, right? So we could argue, much like, Hamilton should be ahead of Toronto. Well, maybe Toronto needs to be ahead of Montreal. At number 2, I have the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They look really good. They could still be the top team. They're shaping into form. But I just like Montreal was clinched. They were already playing with like house money. So it was like, okay, I'm not going to scold them. I'm not going to, deduct major points because they lost a game where they've already clinched. So I'm going to keep them at 1, the Alouettes, and at 2, I have the Bombers. But I will say this: it is getting razor close. Razor thin close. I think that's what they say. Did I say Glenn Close? Anyway, what's your final 2?
Yeah, I said I wasn't going to move Montreal out of the number 1 spot. Yeah, here I am going back on my word. moving them out of the number 1 spot. I have Montreal at number 2. I think that defense is showing some vulnerability.
They are.
And that concerns me a little bit because while Cody Fajardo has been,
it's easy to see a tide turn.
Cody Fajardo has been good. I do think he struggles a little bit playing from behind. I think he is better with either a tie or a lead where they can run the ball efficiently. They don't have to panic. So yeah, I got them at number 2 and 6 touchdowns. And I think the best defense in the league. Despite letting Edmonton have the yards, they didn't let them have the points with it. I have Winnipeg at number 1. And I think I said it, 3 weeks ago, that I think this is the team that's going to win the Grey Cup. Just have a gut feeling. And I'm stuck on that. So I got them at number 1.
All right. I like this. At least, I mean, we had most of our shit the same. So having some difference at the top, good for the sport. And
Yes,
folks, we will be back tomorrow with the, obviously the week was 18 picks. Wanted to ask you, what's the game you're most excited to watch this week, J Mark?
It's got to be that Winnipeg Hamilton game.
Yeah, because our whole futures. If not, you might. I might have to just drive down to Mexico, so no one ever sees me ever again. All right, folks, give J Mark a follow on Twitter at JMarkFootball. Make sure you reach out to him. Talk about no-turn lawnmowers for about, I don't know, good half a day. J Mark, what are you guys doing right now on the Old Fashioned Football podcast, which everyone should be checking out?
Yeah, I got fantasy football to help your teams. We got NFL best bets and, like Channing Tatum, or not Channing Tatum, Channing from this show that tunes in.
He's got his mind in the gutter.
Channing Tatum also tuned in too. No, Channing came over and checked us out last night. His first time checking it out. Doesn't play fantasy football. Still had a good time with the show because we got whiskey right back here. We reviewed Rittenhouse Rye. Every Monday we review a whiskey neat, and then we have it in the old fashioned on Thursday and tell you what it's like in the old fashioned.
There we go. Make sure you check out J. Mark Wahlberg's work. Just start naming all these celebrities. Channing Tatum was on your mind, huh? Starting to worry about you, buddy.
I don't know.
Starting to worry about you, buddy. Folks, make sure you check out the Old Fashioned Football podcast. Also, the UFL Gambling podcast. Yeah, I know. Since I'm in the Naked Gun mood, there's this. The first Naked Gun, such a classic. He's talking about. He's there to like chaperone the Queen of England, and he gives a press conference, and he's like. He's like, now, no matter how silly we may think the concept of a queen is, we must show her respect and show her the ways of a free country, right? And that's the way I felt right there when you said that. Anyway, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Somebody get me a coffee. Please check out the UFL Gambling podcast. This is what I was saying. I was going to go. That no matter it might not be a great football league, but it's still football and it's coming around in when did they say it was April? I
think late March is when the official kickoff is.
Yeah, and so check out the UFL Gambling podcast as well. I'm on Twitter at TheColbyD. I host the College Football Experience and the FCS College Football Experience, as well as the Stadium Heads podcast. Check them all out. College Basketball Experience as well, going into full swing. Also, right now, great time of year to check out everything else. Bottom Line Bombs podcast, that kind of talks about all sports. Sports gambling podcast, NFL coverage, MLB gambling podcast with the playoffs, starting. NHL gambling the hockey gambling podcast is what it's called. Get on over there, check that, as well as the NBA gambling podcast. All of those, hitting right now. So let's go. Best time of year as far as sports. Till tomorrow, folks. This is the CFL Gambling Podcast. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.